Did you want to do a roll call now, Sarah?
Yes, please, if I may. Councillor Colbrand?
Yes, I'm here.
No. Councillor Spencer?
Present.
Thank you, Councillor Spencer. Councillor Dre?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Ibrahim?
Here.
Thank you. Councillor Evans?
Well, I'm here, hopefully.
And Councillor Hodgins?
Yeah. So there we got a full crew. Yeah. So thanks everybody on this lovely morning to come to a meeting.
And I'm here, Steve, as well.
Oh, sorry, Steve, I haven't finished. Is Councillor Hodgins online? I can't confirm. No?
He's not in the list of participants.
Right, Councillor Hussey, I've seen Councillor Hussey.
Yeah, present.
Councillor Morgans?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning. Councillor Smith?
I'm here.
Hello. And Councillor White?
I can't see Councillor White either.
I am seeing him. That's why I questioned it earlier.
He did have trouble logging in on the Fire Authority meeting, so maybe he's having trouble again.
Yeah.
Thank you. That concludes the roll call.
Excellent. Thanks, everyone. If you move on to item 2, any declarations of interest, if members could please state anything that they've got, or if anything that crops up, please say and mention it at the time. That'd be great. And the Local Government Act 2000. Item 3, chairperson's announcements. I've got nothing that I'm aware of. So we'll move straight on to item 4 then, to receive the minutes of the Finance Audit and Performance Management meeting held on the 15th of March 2021, page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. Page 8. Page 9. Page 10. Page 11. Page 12. And page 13. Anybody like to?
I'll move that, Chair.
Anybody want a second then? Yeah.
I'll say.
Does anybody want to raise anything at all from their minutes?
Nope.
Oh, well, thanks that then. Do you want to do we don't need. Do you need just to note them, Sarah, or do you need to vote on them?
No, just to note, the only items we need to vote on will be items 5 and 6.
Right, that's okay then. All right, on my list. Right then, we move on to the next item then, which is item 5, revenue outturn 2020-21, page 15 of the pack.
That's me then. Morning.
And I was going to say Lisa's going to be doing it because she got a lot of work on this morning, but look at my list.
Okay, so this report presents the revenue budget and outturn position for the period the 1st of April 2020 to the 31st of March 2021. So this report presents the outturn position and all the areas of spend, the net revenue surplus of 1.3 million for the year ended, and then the transfer of that surplus to our usable reserves. The paper also presents 6 appendices. Appendices 1 shows members the annual budget, the total transactions for the year, and a variance analysis, so an under or overspend position. Appendix 2 shows the forecasts for each FAPM meeting that we've attended. Appendix 3, the year-end movement in the reserves, so you can see what the final position of a reserve statement is. Appendix 4 gives a summary of the COVID spend for the period, because last year was a strange year for us, and we did have a lot of unexpected spend, albeit and expected non-spend as well. And appendices 5 and 6 detail the grant position for both revenue and capital. This report shows that the underspend has increased by over 800,000 since we last met in March. And the main reasons for that are detailed in the narrative from 2.4 to 2.8. In a nutshell, it is made up, the 800,000, of just over 200,000 in salaries, over 300,000 in supplies and services, contracted services, capital financing charges, and additional income, and they all come to the extra 800,000. I can go through that in more detail if members choose, although all the detail is contained in the narrative there.
Has anybody got any questions that Lisa is able to answer
Yes, please.
regarding what she just stated? Was that Val, was it?
It's me. Yes, please.
Yeah,
Bill.
go on, Val. Yeah.
Well, only a funny little point on page 17, last paragraph on 242. I think you meant higher, not height, for cutting your hedges. There were a few things on 2.45. Externally funded lease car costs of 26k are now included, and the income is included below. I got myself confused there. I just didn't understand. I'm sorry.
With we received some grant funding for lease cars. So the difference between this report and the report you would have seen in March is that because of year-end reporting, we've had to include all transactions to the service. So that's all grant spend, but also grant income. So what that sentence means is we've got additional costs in there for grant-funded lease costs, and the income is included down below in the income section, because we don't tend to net those off.
Right. Okay. Yeah, you know, I read things and then I get myself thoroughly confused. Turning to, I've circled various things that I was going to ask about, please. I'm on, page 29, appendix 4. When you make reference at the bottom there, little bullet point, little star point, ICT costs can only be claimed at 50%. Why is that?
This relates to, this is the COVID funding and spend for the year. Welsh Government, they developed policy throughout the year from when we started spending on COVID, because we started spending on in March 2019-20, didn't we? So they would only fully fund some categories of spend. So ICT costs, they wouldn't wholly spend, they'd only fund 50% of them. And the rationale for that was because there was, after COVID, a secondary life for all that equipment.
Ah, right. Okay, yeah.
So things like multimedia sort of equipment, you know, stuff that's allowing us to do what we're doing now, that sort of thing. So because we would have eventually purchased those items, they would only fund us 50% of the cost.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Thank you. And then looking at Appendix 5, comment there. I got trouble tracing my time through this last year, like everybody. I've got at the top of this nearly 5 months or something. There's a reference there to the 2.12. I just put alongside. It's the actually a video for young drivers, and I just put a little thing alongside. Are the schools aware? Can they access this to show sixth formers and such like? Because a lot of work goes in, and we made a very good video some time ago about refuse fires. But that was just a thinking there. And then my last point, if I may. Not a flippant one, but a serious one. Under the dogs, under 215, how many rescue dogs do we now have, and where are they lodged?
Gosh, I don't know.
In Newport.
I don't know how many rescue dogs. I'd have to check that for you, Councillor.
It's all right. No, it's okay. It's just that I was aware of the dogs when they were in Newport, then they disappeared, and now we've got them back again. And then my last question, if I may, Chairman, is on appendix.
Yeah, go on, Val.
Appendix 6, do we actually have a full-time FBU employee? There's a costing there for an FBU, 73,391. Under employees cost, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9th column along. So do we actually have a full-time employee who is employed by us for the FBU?
These are employees of Fire and Rescue Service that we second across to the FBU, and what they do is they reimburse us the cost of that employee.
Ah, I see. So I didn't realise.
So we don't employ FBU employees. It's one of our staff members who's gone across you, and I think that's 1.5 full-time equivalent.
It's definitely one full-time person working for the FBU, and then there's sort of part funding of other people that do pieces of work for the FBU as well.
Right. No, thank you very much.
All right, you happy with them answers, Val?
Yeah, I can't read my own writing on the X page. But
All right.
It's all right. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Officer.
Yeah, no, that's no problem. Anybody else got any questions for Lisa? The only one I would have asked is, with the COVID, is there any lag on the timelines from, paying out costs?
Yeah, Councillor, they'd all we reclaim all the costs in arrears, and we do monthly submissions.
Yeah.
So obviously after we've incurred the costs, and then it depends when the quarter reporting falls, but we obviously reclaim everything that's been done on each quarter then.
Yeah. The only reason I'd ask that because it's where it's on the notes, we are in arrears then, really. So yeah. No, that's fine. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to state, Lisa? Or?
Yeah, just to reiterate that there's a £1.3 million underspend on the revenue budget, and this has been transferred into usable reserves to pump prime future efficiency projects.
Right.
And that's a bit the members we'd like members to agree, really.
Right. So there's nobody else who wants to ask anything now before we go to the recommendations?
No.
No?
Nobody's indicating.
Sorry, Sarah?
Nobody's indicating.
Right. If we go to the recommendation, the outturn position with a net revenue surplus and transfer to usable reserve is received and noted.
I'm happy to
Are we
move.
happy with that?
Yep.
That's out?
Yeah, as this is a report for decision, I'll have to take a very quick vote from members.
Yes, that's why I had that to meet.
Councillor Colbrand?
Yes, in favour.
Thank you. Councillor Spencer?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Drake?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Ibrahim?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Evans?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Hodgins, I think, still hasn't joined. Councillor Hussey?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Morgans?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Smith?
Yep. In favour.
Thank you. And Councillor White, I believe, still hasn't joined. So that's
Right.
Unanimous in favour, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Sarah, for that. We can move on to item 6 then, which is capital outturn report 2020 to 2021, and that's on page 35. And I think that one's Lisa's again. I think.
It is.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor. So the capital outturn report, again, this relates to our capital investment costs for the period 1st of April 2020 up until 31st of March 2021. And this report presents the final capital spend position and also asks members to approve the budget slippage into this current year, which is 2021-22. So the total budget available was 7.9 million, and we've spent 3.6 million. Since previous reporting, the outturn has increased by £1 million, and that's for various reasons. These schemes in capital, they tend to have longer lead times and they're more complex in terms of achieving a final position. And there's a few schemes that have added to that £1 million reduction there. Overall, it's £748,000 underspend, and we're slipping forward 3.6 million into 21-22. That additional £1 million since previous reporting, it relates to just under £400,000 in property. Most of that relates to 2 schemes, and that is Pontypridd and Tonopandi. Pontypridd, there was, at the time of writing the report, internal work hadn't been completed, although it now has. And we are still on track to complete external works, probably before September. Tonopandi has been delayed because of the Western Power work. Not completely completed, although due early August. So we have a small additional underspend on vehicle replacement programme of 62,000, and the 2.5 gives a breakdown of what makes up that variance there. And the largest area is the decrease in equipment. Most of that is in regard to the structural kit not coming in by the 31st of March. And we've had various issues with the supplier, and that will be coming in during this year now.
Good, that was one of my questions for you, Lisa.
ICT, there's a small decrease of 11,000 since previous reporting. All that is adding up to the 1.1 million. There's a small table there that shows that we've managed within the parameters of the budget, and we've tried to fund any overspends with underspends, and some of those overspends are also grant funding. £69,000 of grant funding on capital items was brought in during the year. So the recommendation is for members to note the progress on the capital schemes and also approve the slippage going forward into 21-22.
Well, thank you for that, Lisa. Has anybody got any questions that you'd like to ask on that report?
Yes, please. It's me again.
Well,
yes,
yeah, no.
Well, Pontypridd, why did we have to switch to a new contractor?
We've tendered in 2 packages. We've tendered for internal works. It was a big project, so we tendered for internal works and external works just to provide ourselves with flexibility. And I think it was a good call on this occasion. I don't know if Gareth's got anything to add on that.
Yeah, there were, obviously through the COVID period, there were some initial concerns with the contractor that were doing the internal works. And the delays, obviously, that were caused by COVID. And then we came back to this committee and had approval for the additional funding for the external works. So at that point, then we went out to tender for an additional package of works. And obviously, a contractor that was successful in winning that tender was a changeover from the existing contractor, which did suit us really, and that work is progressing well now.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you. It was the word switch. It sounded as if sort of, yes, something had been arranged and sorry, we had to change over, and I wondered why. Thank you very much, Chair.
Well, thanks for your question, Well, anyone else would like to ask Lisa anything? No? The only thing sorry?
Nobody's indicating.
The only question I wanted to ask myself is on the new inn where we got existing work still going on. Will we be covering that this year while the ongoing other property is being looked at?
Yeah, obviously with New Inn, whilst we're still sort of looking at the alternative site, even if we were to move to purchase that site in the coming weeks and months, the timescales then for clearing the site, building constructing a new facility on that site, it's probably going to be at least 2 to 3 years before we'd be in a position to move. So there is still minor investment required on the existing New Inn station, just to keep it in sort of operational capacity and to ensure that it's still fit for purpose as a fire station, and primarily safety, any health and safety reports or issues that are raised, that ensure that this is a safe and compliant station for our crews.
No, that's great. I just wonder. I was more about the timelines. That money's going in for say 2 to 3 years, which you said, while the other one's being looked at. So no, that's brilliant. Thanks for that. The recommendation. Sorry, did somebody want to say something else?
Sorry, it's me muttering away to myself. With the new,
All right.
The proposal for the new station, that's good. That's a good move. I vaguely wondered if it had knock-on implications for other stations, perhaps, but that'll show in the future. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Val. The recommendation that members note the progress of the capital schemes, approve alterations identified in Appendix 1, and note the associated funding streams. Like to take a vote on that, Sarah, please?
Certainly. Councillor Colbrand,
Yes, in favour.
Councillor Spencer.
Yes, agree.
Thank you. Councillor Drake.
Did you say Drake?
Yes, Councillor Drake.
Unfortunately, it was echo. Yeah, I'm in favour.
Thank you. Councillor Ibrahim.
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Evans.
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Hussey.
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Morgans.
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Support.
Thank you. That's it. That's unanimous, Chair.
Okay, thanks everyone. Right, if we go on to item 7, which is the Audit Wales audit plan on page 43 of your pack. And I got, I think it's Lisa down again.
Yeah, Chair, we've got Gillian from the Audit Wales on.
I was going to say the Audit Wales a year, I know, but I didn't know whether Lisa wanted to lead it into it. So.
Oh no, thank you. I'd be good enough for me.
Okay, I'll make a start there. Okay, hello. For those of you who don't know me, which is probably most of you, I'm Gillian Gillett. I'm the Financial Audit Manager at Audit Wales. I've struggled to get into your meetings before, but I've cracked it now, I think. So, well, pleased to see you all. Anyway, this item 7 then is our annual audit plan, which just sets out the work we plan to do to discharge our statutory responsibilities and informs you when it will be undertaken, how much it will be cost, and who would be undertaking the work. We set out our responsibilities in respect to the financial statements in paragraph 11, which are to give an opinion on the truth and fairness of your financial statements and assess whether the narrative report and your annual governance statement comply with requirements and are consistent with the financial statements. Our audit approach is based upon an assessment of the risks of material misstatement. At the time we drafted the plan, we identified 4 risks, which are in Exhibit 1 on page 47 of your pack. Management override of controls, that's always viewed as a significant risk in all audit bodies, and that's a requirement of auditing standards. We also consider the impact of COVID-19 pandemic could still be a risk in terms of your accounts. That continues to put pressure on your staff, and remote working could be difficult. At the time we wrote the plan, we weren't sure what would happen with the McLeod judgment, and also there were some issues identified with the 1920 accounts which we thought could be a risk again this year. Then if we move on to Exhibit 2 on page 51 of your pack, that details our performance audit work. The audit of the improvement plan and assessment of performance under the local government measure. As far as I'm aware now, the work has been completed on the improvement plan and the certificate issued, and we'll be doing the assessment of your performance in the autumn. We'll also be undertaking a review of progress to meeting the Welsh Government carbon reduction targets and their environmental strategies under the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act examination and the Value for Money review. And then our estimated audit fee for 2021 is shown in Exhibit 3 on page 52 of your pack, which is £72,317, which is no change in the baseline fee from last year. And if anyone's got any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Anybody got any questions for Gillian?
No, only a comment. If you deal with 44 bodies, bless you.
Yeah. But no, I think it's a very good report and a good reflection on the audit and our staff. So thank you very much for the report anyway. Unless anybody else got any other questions for Gillian? No? I think you got away very lightly there, Gillian.
Yeah, great. I'll come again.
Right. Sarah, do we move on to the next item now?
As long as members approve and
We need to note that report, that's what I want to find out, yeah. We need to know.
Yes, yeah, if we can just note and move, I'd appreciate that.
Right. Members happy to note that and in agreement?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Right. If we move on to item 8 then, which is the Statement of Accounts 2020-2021, page 57.
Thanks, Chair. I'm going to take this one to give Lisa a rest.
Hey, you brave.
Well earned rest. She probably knows more about this document than I do, however. So this report contains the proposed final version of the Statement of Accounts for 2020-2021, the one the auditors will be signing off. We approved the draft at the end of May in accordance with the usual process. And as Gillian has just outlined in the audit plan, the audit has been progressing over the last couple of months, the statutory deadline for completion being the 31st of July, and we're hoping we still meet that. I'm looking for Gillian to shake her head desperately if that's not the case. The report itself includes the statement of accounts, and to be honest, Lisa has just taken you through the revenue outturn position and the capital outturn position, and those two reports underpin the content of the statement in terms of moving us to the end of year financial position, and therefore there's not a huge amount that I wanted to pick up from the statement itself. The reserves positions reflect obviously the underspend position for the revenue outturn in the year. So those are included in the same way they were included in Lisa's report anyway. The members sometimes look at this report and wonder why it's 80 pages long, and the simple reason for that is whilst the sort of clear understanding of the revenue accounting and capital accounting of the Fire Authority are quite easy on an internal basis when we look at them from a management perspective, but in terms of signing off the accounts, we have to move all that to the basis of international financial reporting standards, which requires us to do all sorts of things to comply with our reporting duties in that respect. And that's to a large degree why the document is very detailed and needs some degree of explanatory notes, all to tie it back to the actual management accounts that Lisa has just explained to you in the last reports. I'm not going to say anything further than that. I'm sure Gillian will have a few things to say about the audit itself when she picks up that particular aspect of it. Obviously, if members have any questions about the detail of the report, then I'm more than adequate to answer them, I hope, unless, of course, they're too detailed, in which case Lisa will jump in and save me.
I told you to be brave. Any questions that anybody would like to ask Chris regarding that? No? I think you got away well there, Chris, again as well.
Jim, it's a congratulations.
Yeah, Val, go on.
Chris. There are lots of points when you actually go through it that, I mean, I've been around for a long time and I find myself thinking, gosh, I never knew that. And various questions, but it's, where was it? Bear with me one moment, please. Various reports in this agenda. There's a reference to volunteers, and where do the volunteers fit in the scheme? Because I can't recall ever before seeing them identified an actual item volunteers. Oh, flip it. Somebody just coming to my door. Right, volunteers across the service. On page 18 of, not page 18, page 78, volunteers across the service providing driving support. So where do we draw these volunteers from? Sorry, as I say, elsewhere in the agenda, there's a reference to volunteers, and I don't understand. I've never before been aware of them. So can you just elaborate on that a bit, please, somebody?
Certainly, Councillor Smith, I'll take that one for us. These volunteers are drivers from our fleet and engineering who've been supporting the mass vaccination centres by transporting people to their vaccination when they had no other means of transport. One of the ways that we've been volunteering to support the COVID-19 vaccination efforts across the country.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
You happy with that, Val?
Yeah, it's just that you come across things in reports that you've looked at for years and think I've never seen that before. So thank you for that, Chairman. And there are various things going through, and congratulations, Chris, on writing it. Perhaps I'll have a talk to you sometime. Thank you.
Chair, I would like to point out that I didn't write it, Lisa did.
He's having to blame now, Lisa.
There's a significant amount of work that goes on within the finance
I
team
understand that.
to actually produce this document. And obviously, at the end of the day, I'm the one who has to put a signature to it to ensure that it is representative of the authority's finances. But it's the team who does all the donkey work to actually put this document together.
Yeah.
Well, whoever does it, thank you very much indeed, because it is very informative, and thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Val. Any other questions? I can't see nobody indicated.
Chair.
So the recommendations that members note the audited statement of accounts 2020-21, and that members receive the ISA 260 report and note letter of representation contained therein provided electronically, which you had. Are we happy to note them?
Yep, happy to note that.
The 60 follows now, which the Audit Wales will present. So that follows naturally on is the actual
after this. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. So if we move on to the next item, which will be the audit account report, ISA 260 report, which is 147 page on your pack. And I think that's Lisa again, is it?
No, it's me, Gillian.
Oh, you again? I got Lisa's name on you. That's what it is.
No, it's probably because last time I couldn't actually access your meeting, so someone else had to do it, but I managed it today, so I can do that. So thank you. Okay, then this is our Audit of Accounts report, which summarises the main findings from our audit of your 2021 financial statements. We've completed our audit work, but there are some matters that we need to report to you before you approve the financial statements. So we've continued to work remotely and with the finance team throughout the accounts process, and I'd just like to really express our thanks to them for the help and support they've given us in giving us the audit evidence we've needed. The process has gone fairly smoothly, so thank you so much for your help with that. There isn't very much any significant issues arising from the audit that we need to report to you. There are no uncorrected misstatements. There were some misstatements in the accounts, but these are fairly minor in nature. They've been corrected and had no impact on the authority's net position, but just for the record, they're summarised in Appendix 3 on page 161 of your report. To the good news then, the Auditor General intends to issue an unqualified audit opinion on your financial statements, and the proposed audit report is set out in Appendix 2 on page 156. And then on Appendix 1 on page 153 in your pack is the letter of representation we require you to sign before the Auditor General can issue his opinion. The opinion should be issued then on Wednesday, so the 28th, once we've had the signed accounts from you and the signed letter of representation. That's all I've got to say really, but if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Any questions for Julian?
Chair, can I just make an observation really? As much as the hard work of the finance team within the services has helped to provide this statement. Equally, it's a kind of vote of thanks to Audit Wales for the pragmatic and efficient way they've dealt with the audit as well, because it's been a lot better this year than we've perhaps had in previous years. I think we're all learning from COVID, which is helping the process along, making it much more easy.
Great, thanks for that, Chris. I was going to come in on that and say, I'm very pleased with the staff for the hard work and all the effort has gone to make this, work well. And, if you can pass that on to everybody that's been involved and the audit teams, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Chris. I think we're all learning under COVID, weren't we? Last year was a bit short notice, but we've had a year to work through it, and I think things have improved on both sides. So, yeah, thanks to everybody.
Yeah, and thanks to you. Sarah, do we need to just note this report?
Yes, just a move and note, please, Chair.
Yeah, members are happy to note this report?
Yeah.
And anybody in agreement? Yeah, thank you.
We've just got one ask, obviously, at the conclusion now of the audit and the statement of accounts is just that the letter of representation and the statement of accounts itself will be signed, obviously, by the treasurer and by the chair. So it's
no, I've seen that. Yeah,
they'll be signed off then, and the signed copies returned to Audit Wales for them to sign off their audit certificate as well. Then.
Right. Excellent. Thanks for that. If we move on to the next item, which is item 10, Internal Audit Report 163, and I think that's Steen's job. I know that one.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, members. So
Steve.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Just two reports this time round. So outside commitments, personal and business interests, and also our progress report. So if I take you through the first one, which is outside commitments, personal and business interests, if I just briefly take you through what the recommendations were. So overall reasonable assurance. The scope of the review was to look at the processes for identifying, recording and assessing outside commitments, personal interests and business interests, and then monitoring those for existing staff. As I say, just three recommendations leading to a reasonable assurance report. The recommendations are referenced within the executive summary key strategic findings. So the first is that the business interests policy was out of date. I think we're finding that with a lot with our clients. A lot of policies are being left to decisions around COVID. So the impact of COVID is having an impact on the nature of policies, was causing delays in terms of finalisation to identify what the new normal might be going forward, and then what the policy might look like. So it's good that there's a date being set for a date in the policy, but there's probably reasons around the delay in the first place. And then the other two recommendations are really around the content of the policy. So the first is to have reference to the Data Protection Act, increasingly standard practice where the policy reference obtaining personal data. So it's identifying what you're going to do with that data, how you're going to protect it, how you're going to make sure it's secure, and when you're going to delete it if that's a requirement. And then the final recommendation then is just to be more explicit in terms of the need to communicate changes if somebody's got a personal interest, an outside commitment. If that commitment changes, or if there's a new commitment, then staff need to notify the authority that has happened. So again, that's good practice. The other thing just to note in that report is an item of good practice. So clearly it's one thing having a policy, but everybody needs to be aware of that policy, in particular staff, but also managers as well, because they need to kind of manage and lead on those particular issues. So that's good practice, I think. I'm happy to take any questions on that particular report.
Anybody got any questions for Steve?
Only I find it very easy to read this nice. I like the colours, Chairman.
Yeah. Thank you. I like the wiper things at the end. I think I said a clean sweep either one way or the other.
Yeah.
I think that's a very good statement, the way you're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something we try to work on. Clearly, as a committee, you want to kind of clear and concise information, easily readable, because you've got a pad which got only pages, 193 pages. You want our reports to be succinct and clear and easily readable.
Simplistic, the better,
That's something we definitely work on, so it's good to hear that.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. Any other question? Anybody got anything at all, Steve?
Yeah.
No?
So the next report then is our progress report. We call it a summary internal controls assurance report, but it's effectively a progress report. You'll have read the content, so I'll just highlight some of the some of the key features. You'll have seen in the first section there reference to a survey that we undertook of our clients, asking them about how they'd like the audit to be undertaken in future, and also kind of what their working practices might be in terms of remote working. And you'll see that most of our clients responded that there'll probably be a mixture of virtual and home working and office-based working. We ourselves are continuing to work remotely as much as we can, but for some of the audits we've started this year, we've spent a couple of days on site looking at physical documents, so kind of a mix for ourselves as well. You'll see that we perhaps haven't got any reports in for 21-22 as yet. That's because all of those have started in July and in August, so there'll be a kind of a big lot of reports to come to the September Audit Committee, Finance Assurance Performance and Management Committee. And the other thing just to note then is we've issued a number of client briefing notes and fraud alerts in the period. I think mainly they're kind of new frauds given COVID twist. So kind of the highlights. So cybersecurity continues to be on the rise, both in terms of threats to organisations, but as well as to individuals. So a need therefore to have preventative measures around cyber attacks, but also increasing awareness within the staff base to make sure that they know what to do if they encounter something. Ideally not to click on the link that they've been sent, but if they are to receive something, then they know what to do and how to report that back to the ICT teams. And the other one you will have picked up is a reference to one that we produced in terms of Grenfell. That's just to give an update to some of our clients, because we produce them for a whole range of public services. So it's just to give them a client notice of landlord requirements, the potential of Home Office funding for landlords to provide works around cladding, and also it was referenced to the delayed bill in May. So again, I'm happy to take any questions on that report.
No. Anybody got any other questions? The only thing I could find in a report, and you may think this is petty, but on page 183 is a typo.
Oh, right, okay. Thank
right.
you.
It should say white lie, not wild lie.
Oh, right.
That was the only thing I could find on there to try and come up with anything.
Thank you. It goes through 3 sets of hands before it comes to yourself, so I'm going
to... I've been a Specsavers.
I'm going to pass that up the chain, thank you.
Any other questions that Steve needs to look at?
No, Chair, I've learnt a new word this morning, though. Smishing.
What's that?
Smishing.
Oh, what? Better than smashing. Right then. Is that all your report completed, Steve? No? Yeah, brilliant. The recommendations, the members are asked to note the internal audit recommendations and work completed to date on the internal audit plan 2020-2021. Are we happy to note that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody in agreement?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks for that. Well,
thank you, members. The
next, thanks, Steve, for your thing. Anyway, I'll give you something to look at now. You can tell I did read it. Item 11, the forward work program. Who's going to lead on that?
Yeah, just the standard annual forward work program sets out the timeline for each report coming to the committee through the year, pretty much in line with the previous year's reporting cycles. The only one that we possibly will be adding to the forward work program, and that's following discussions with the Fire Authority at the end of the last municipal year, was around the proposed new terms of reference for the Scrutiny Committee. Obviously, we'll be going to the Scrutiny Committee first and then coming back to this committee for further approval and sign off, or going back to the Fire Authority towards this municipal year. So we'll add that one in due course as and when it's been through the Scrutiny Committee.
Right, excellent. Is there any questions that any member wants to ask before we move on to, the chair's announcement and then finishing the meeting? Is there anything anybody wants to ask now before we finish the meeting? That's what I'd like to ask. No? Everybody happy?
Yep.
Right, item 12 is consider any items of business the chairperson deems urgent. I've got nothing to declare, so officially, if nobody's got any other questions, that's the end of the meeting.